What's up, y'all? So the past couple days has been kind of rough, and I'm sorry I actually didn't film it. It would have been really cool, but I didn't think it would be like the proper thing to do, and I'll explain in a second. So yeah, if you keep up with my videos, you know that like not even a month ago, it was like August 15th, so not even a month ago, the boat was fixed and it was working and it was great and it was $3,000. And 2 weeks later it broke. Yeah. So the starter broke, again, which is actually the third time this has happened. So we've had this boat about 10 years. It's broken 3 starters, 2 of which the bolt has broken off in the engine. So if you own a boat and you've had this happen, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's real fun. So what happens is most starters on a car have like 3 bolts that hold it in place. So you'll have like the flywheel of the car, and you'll have the bolt that's straight up against the engine block, and it's held in by the starter is held up against the engine block, and it's held on by 3 bolts. Well, most boats only have 2 bolts, and that's a lot of torque. That's a lot of pressure on a boat. So what ends up happening is after a while, that starter starts shaking loose, and especially since a boat is on waves, unlike a car on a flat street, the boat's always bouncing all around. And so what happens is the bolts get loose, and then once they get loose and they have a little bit of wiggle room between the starter and the actual engine block, oh, they crack. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So the bolts actually screw on this model. The bolts are down here. Hold up. The bolts are down here. Right there. 1, 2. 1, 2. So as you can imagine, the bolts are up inside the engine block. You can't take them out. You can't reverse thread them. You can't get them out unless you can actually get straight to them, which means that the engine block, this whole entire freaking thing, has to come out again. Which means that all of this has to come out as well, and this needs to be removed so we can get this removed. So the past 5 days, that's what I've been doing. This time I'm saving money. I'm doing it myself. Like with my mechanic, but I'm mostly doing everything. He's just kind of letting me use the shop. So it's really cool. I learned how to undo an engine. I mean, there's not that many. It's just steering and, you know, electrical cables, and obviously undoing the starter, undoing your fuel line, undoing the water separator, undoing your exhaust up here, and then your plumbing that goes to the outdrive itself, and then there's a few ground wires there, and then there's like 2 other wires on the back side, and then you just take off these 3 bolts, 2 bolts back there and 3 bolts on the other side, and then the whole engine just like straight up lifts out. It's pretty epic. It's pretty awesome, but it is a lot of work. So anyway, so we had to rip the entire engine out again, which is the 2nd time in 2 months now, and flip it upside down to then reverse thread. Just one of these bolts broke, only one, the one on the port side. The one on the starboard side, actually, if that had broken, you can get to it on the top. There's a hole, I think it's, yeah, that one right there. So you can see that, you can see the bolt right there, just a little bit right there. That's the port, that's the one that didn't break. The starboard one broke, which if it was this one, we could have tapped it out from the opposite side, but since it was this one, no, the whole thing has to come out. Yeah. That's great. So anyway, that was fun. So we popped this guy out, and what we ended up doing was putting 2 bolts back on at a grade 8. So if you own a boat and you really want advice on this, if this is happening to you, you have to use grade 8 bolts, number 1. You have to use OEM bolts, because if you use like aftermarket ones, like for a car or something like that, they're not threaded right, and eventually they are going to strip a whole lot easier. The way that these bolts work is when they tap themselves in, they actually stretch themselves as they're going in, so it is kind of stretching the bolt, which you would think would weaken it, but it really just makes it stronger. It helps it get up all the way into the housing so that it doesn't have any wiggle room. The idea is, as soon as the bolt has wiggle room, then it has a little bit of room to start shaking around, and once it starts shaking, then it starts cracking, and then eventually it just cuts off in general. Wait, I still have it. I didn't think I had this. There it is. Yeah, So this $2 bolt cost me, moving the entire engine out, 5 days labor. So there's it was. It's where it broke off right there. It's supposed to go out to about, I guess, another 1/2 inch. Went straight up like that. As you can see, It doesn't actually reach the red part, which is where the engine block is. So it broke off inside the block. So we ended up just reverse threading it out. You know, thread the opposite way and then drill it straight out. That wasn't hard at all. But while I was here, I went ahead and repainted the engine. So I put a nice new red coat on. Pretty much, well, most of it. I mean, there's a few things I didn't do, but overall it looks a lot better. Yeah, so we went ahead and changed the oil as well. Dropped the oil pan because we had to flip it upside down. And, yep, just crawl out. Okay, so yeah, so if you have starter problems, I would suggest, number one, if you have starter problems, get grade 8 bolts. And number two, the most important thing, and you can read this online, tons of reviews about this, tons of people are saying this, get a bracket, okay? If you notice on your starter, there's only 2 bolts, but a lot of starters have this guy right here on the back. This is just a little bolt that comes out, and all you have to do is makeshift some kind of bracket, or you can even buy them, and your engine block should have an empty screw hole right here, somewhere around here, and that's what that's made for, is having a bolt, having a bracket bolted to your starter block. So instead of just having pressure on these two whenever it torques against the flywheel, you'll actually have pressure evenly distributed between the back and between the front of this, so it actually holds it in place better so it doesn't jiggle around, because that's what happens is it keeps turning, and without this holding it in place, eventually those 2 bolts are going to snap. So this should help hold it in place better. And again, boats jump around a lot, okay, so that's going to help give it some stability. So definitely find some kind of bracket. Just Google search boat starter bracket, or boat engine bracket, or starter bracket, or whatever, and I promise you, you will find a billion pictures for it. So here's mine. We actually just made this ourselves, and we didn't have to weld it or anything, just screwed it in place right here and right here. Again, using those existing screws right here, an existing hole right here, and that's what it's made for. So awesome. Okay, so as if it isn't bad enough, boats are the most expensive things you will possibly own. And at the same time, we just got it back from the mechanic today, or I finished it up today actually. Took it out in the water just to make sure, test it, and make sure it was running fine. And we did something in the water. Or I did something in the water actually. Oh, that looks okay. Oh, oh man, that isn't that just great? It's a $100 blade. Yeah, I'm telling you, boats are the most expensive thing you will ever own in your entire life. So this is an aluminum blade. It is a 16 or 15 by 16. So I'm trying to remember. Diameter is the first one, I believe. So 15, and then 16 is the pitch, or it might be the other way around. 15 is the diameter and 16 is the pitch. I don't know. Anyway, so this is a 4-blade. It's an aluminum. The reason why I'm using 4-blade is because whenever you are using torque, whenever you want torque, the most important thing you can do is have that extra blade to be able to catch water. And so I want to have low-end torque, be able to pull skiers out of the water and pull wakeboarders and all that kind of stuff. So I need that extra blade to be able to dig into the water, to be able to pull us up at low speeds. Okay, so this is an aluminum prop. It's a 4-blade. The reason why you want a 4-blade versus a 3-blade is because I want to be able to have as much torque as possible. And if you think of it kind of like an oar on a canoe, is that the oars, the more oars you have paddling, the more power that you're going to have, right? The more people, the more power, because there's more oars in the water. There's more paddles in the water pushing against the water. Well, this is the same way. There's more blades pushing against the water, which gives you more torque. So it's going to be slower speed because there's more things that have to push and it's more resistance, but it's going to have more pushing power basically, or more torque as we would call it. And then your pitch is going to be the angle at which the prop or the blades are against the water. So a deeper prop or a deeper blade, one that's going to be angled more like this, is going to cut through the water faster, and it's going to have less torque, but it's going to have a lot quicker speed. Versus one that's almost flat with the water, it's going to have more torque because it's really pushing against the water, and less speed. Now, I don't care about speed on this boat. I mean, if I get up to 20 miles an hour, I'm happy because that's wakeboarding speed. Anywhere between 19 to 21 miles an hour is what you really want to wakeboard at. And that's all I care about, is just getting on a plane, staying on that plane, and being able to maintain that speed with as much weight as I have being pulled behind me, or as much ballast as I have in the boat. So I want a very flat pitch on my props. I'm using aluminum, and a lot of people are like, well, why not use stainless? Because this is like the 8th prop I've been through in the past year and a half, 2 years. I mean, I go through props all the time. Actually, I just got this prop redone in July, and it's September. So yeah, the reason why I'm using aluminum is because aluminum props will do this. Aluminum props will get scratched and they'll get dinged up, as you can see here, and they'll get chipped like this. But you know what? That's better than my drivetrain getting all messed up. I got the gears coming in here, and it goes up, and then there's the single drivetrain axle that goes straight into the engine, through the flywheel, into the cylinders, all that kind of stuff. But I don't want any of this getting jacked up. So I'd rather have this be like a fuse where it's the point of least resistance, and this can get dinged up all at once too. I don't really care, because these are, I mean, they're expensive, but it's not as much as if I break one of these gears or something like that, or shoot, mess up my gimbal bearing, which we actually replaced just, you know, a few weeks ago. That was one of the expensive parts, or, you know, something else like that. I'd rather just lose a prop than lose the rest of my engine. So if you have like an outboard to where the engine's all outside, you normally don't have to worry about that as much, just because the whole outboard itself can shift, and you don't have to worry about jacking anything up inside the boat because it's all outside. But even then, I like to stick with aluminum prop. They're not built as well, they're not as thin, so they don't slice through the water as well. The pitch isn't quite as nice. An aluminum or a stainless steel prop is going to be hard, real solid hard, and it's going to be a lot thinner. It's going to be able to slice through the water better as compared to an aluminum. But the stainless are more expensive, and they don't break, which means if you hit something, that's not what's going to break. What's going to break is going to be something up here, or God forbid, your actual transom or something like that. So anyway, yeah, there's your best prop for wakeboarding on a 190 horsepower engine, is right there. A 1516 4-blade, unless you want to go with stainless, but again, I'm not a fan of stainless. So I kind of want to teach you how to remove a prop in case you ever need to do this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take off this guy. There should be a cotter pin, actually. I already took it off. Here's my cotter pin. It just slides in the hole right there. If you're, know what you're doing, you can remove a blade in minutes. I mean, I can swap out between my 3-blade and my 4-blade in probably a minute and a half if I had both hands. So anyway, get some kind of piece of wood, throw it up there, all nice and thrown up. Actually, I need to go counterclockwise. Okay, and all that's going to do is keep the blade from moving. We got our, what is this, 1 1/16. Put it on there and twist. You don't have to twist hard. These things don't have to be super tight. Everybody thinks they have to be super tight. They don't. And you're going to take this out and take this off. So this is your giant bolt that pretty much just holds your prop on. Alright, there's that. This guy just basically holds the actual prop assembly in order. And there's going to be different sizes of these. Alright, now we pull the prop out. Just like that. Now this prop is not the OEM prop for this boat. So this prop, actually I had to put a converter kit on here so it fits. So it's got this little guy in front. I can't actually pull him out because he's like hammered in with a lot of pressure. And then there's this square part that goes in on this side, and the two just come together inside the prop. And hopefully, if you do happen to have a stainless steel prop, they say that these things will break. Like, this will be your fuse, this will be your weakest point. So because I said those, the stainless props don't actually chip like this does when it hits something. You don't want to jack up your entire assembly. Well, they're saying that this is what will strip, this little plastic piece that's inside of here. And so that'll kind of save your drivetrain, but I don't want to take a chance. So anyway, and then there's this guy that will be different depending on the prop, so you're gonna have to take him out. You always want to keep this all nice and lubed and greased up. I mean, not too much, but definitely really lubed. I got some water in there. I need to probably drain that out. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the other prop. Okay, here's that kit I was talking about, that converter kit. So inside here we have the new guy that's made for my 3-blade prop, and it just slides on like so. Hands are all greasy now, whatever. Inside here we've got another one of these guys. These are the same though, so I don't really have to worry about it. And then what else do we have is 2 new bolts and a cotter pin. I have another cotter pin! Oh, that's awesome, because mine is beat up so badly. I think I just lost it too. Where did it go? Oh crap. Oh well. Alright, so we put this one up because I don't need that one. We go ahead, and this one is an OEM, so it doesn't have that part inside, that plastic piece. As you can see, it's different. So we just slide it on. Just like that, simple as that. There we go. And oh, there's my cotter pin. And then we take this guy, put him back on. I like to notice which side has the goo or the grease on it, and then keep it on the same side, just so that it, I don't know why, there's no reason really. And the same with this, I keep the greased side on there, just so I guess the other side stays clean. So then you just screw that on. Okay, now we can put our block back. Okay, it's raining again. Holy crap, this is bad. We're gonna go the opposite direction. And it does not have to be real tight, you guys, okay? It's about as tight as I'm gonna go. I did barely pulled that. Camera's getting all wet. Okay, that's how you change a prop. There you go, prop's changed. You can throw this guy on, slide in your cotter pin, you're done. See y'all later.